Yes.
Yeah, I would like to comment on that terrorism. I want to say that, first of all, the United States is the only country that supports the terrorism because we bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki during the World War II, and that was a civilian target, and that was a...
Where were you when we did that? What country were you living in?
In Lebanon.
In Lebanon?
Yes.
If we are such a terrorist country, what are you doing here? Why did you come here to such a terrorist country?
That's beside the point. What?
Oh, it's not beside the point. It is very well the point. For you to tell... you're an interesting creature because...
Let me tell you why I'm here. Because the Israelis and the United States supported governments like Israel.
You're not making any sense. If you're claiming that the Israelis drove you out of Lebanon, then why come to the United States if you hate the United States? Why didn't you go to Syria? Why didn't you go to Tunisia? Why didn't you go to Jordan? Why didn't you go to any of the 21 Arab nations? I'll tell you why, because you're a no-good two-bit fink. You're a fraud and a phony. You're not even from Lebanon. You're from someplace else.
No. You see, you missed the point.
I missed the point. The point is on the top of your dumb head.
No, the point is you don't let me talk because this is not a free country.
It's not a free country?
No, it's not, because you don't let me talk. I was commenting on...
Am I the government, creep? Am I the government?
You are representing the government.
I represent the government. I don't represent the government. I represent myself.
No, they put you on this radio.
They put me. Who's they?
The government.
You jerk. Yes. You stupid jerk. You know, you talk about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What brought about Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Did you ever hear of Pearl Harbor?
That was...
December 7th, 1941?
That was the biggest terrorist act against civilian, innocent people in Japan, right? So why we are all this make fuss about Libya and Lebanon and terrorists when we bomb 300,000 people in Japan and we still...
We bombed? What do you get the we? What do you mean we?
The government of United...
What do you get the we? You're not part of this country.
Well, I'm here. Okay,
You're here.
Okay,
Are you here illegally? Are you an illegal alien?
No, I'm not illegal. Don't change the subject.
The subject is you. The subject is you, you jerk, you creep.
I'm legally here.
How did you get in? Did you lie?
No, I didn't lie.
You didn't lie? You didn't tell this country? You didn't tell the Department of Immigration and Naturalization how much you hated the United States?
No, I came here to visit and study, that's all.
Visit and study?
Yeah.
Visit who?
I studied...
Visit who?
Huh?
Visit who?
Visit my friends.
You have friends here?
The friends that are...
Are they Americans?
Huh?
Are they Americans?
Yes.
And they know how much you hate them?
No, I don't hate Americans. I hate American government. Don't miss the point.
Don't miss the point.
Yeah, you're not listening to me.
I don't want to listen to you anymore. I can't stand the stench. Well, that slams the lid on things for today. Until tomorrow, this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi.
Did you get a letter from me about Peter Jennings?
Yes, I think I did.
Oh, I'd like to comment on Mr. Jennings' just recent commentary, the one that he presented today.
You know, he's getting more pompous. Every report, he gets more pompous. You know, I'd like to get a little pin and let some of the air out of his shirt.
Well, instead of doing that, I'd like to get him the hell off the air, and I'll tell you why, Bob. First of all, if a person who is supposed to have some education makes statements, he should know his history. The problem of terrorism and the problem in the Middle East has nothing to do with the Palestinian refugees, although they do exist. It has to do basically with the fact that the Arab world does not want to recognize the right of Israel to exist. And until they do that publicly in the UN, and until the PLO removes from the charter the part where they say that the goal is the destruction of Israel, there will be no settlement. But what upsets me is that Jennings gets on the air and uses his position to make statements that are fraudulent and erroneous. Now, Bob, I'd also like to tell you, you know that there are several hostages being held in Beirut. And amongst them is Father Jenko. You remember the name, I'm sure.
Dr. Lawrence Jenko,
Right.
Father Lawrence Jenko, who was taken prisoner on January 8th, 1985.
Right, but let me tell you what Father Jenko's family did that I think they deserve tremendous applause for. Jeremy Levin from the cable news, who...
Please, don't, you spoiled my whole day. You mentioned Jeremy Levin.
All right, but Bob, I want to tell you something that's important. They formed a committee called the American Hostage Committee, in which they were trying to enlist the refugees, the hostages from the TW-847, and from all of them. And the family of Father Jenko, who had originally joined that committee, saw that PLO sympathizers and activists were managing that committee. So they pulled out. I have an article on it. They pulled out of the American Hostage Committee because although they're worried about Father Jenko, they're loyal, patriotic Americans, and they didn't want to be manipulated by the PLO.
They didn't want to be manipulated by the PLO. In other words, they're not Jeremy Levins or Reverend Weirs, Benjamin Weirs. Dorothy?
What?
I share your view, and I tell you, Peter Jennings is becoming more embarrassing all the time.
I know. Now,
As you reminded, he during the hostage holding of TWA Flight 847, he was asking Americans to understand the terrorists. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dorothy.
I'd like to comment on the Belgian response to our call for a boycott of Libya. Did you happen to read their response?
You mean the non-response, really, when you come down to it?
The one of the most vocal in their criticism. Who the hell are the Belgians? I mean, I'm almost sorry that I even ever had a Belgian waffle. And
well, I'll tell you who the Belgians are. The Belgians are the same people who in World War II folded like a cheap camera, didn't have the guts to stand up to Hitler, and let the Wehrmacht Kyle und Kessel around the Maginot Line by just walking through Belgium.
Exactly.
They didn't fire one shot.
I mean, here is this little non-entity country telling America and, supposedly an ally of ours, well, don't stick your nose there, don't be surprised if it gets bitten off. Well, Americans should realize that Sabina Airlines is a Belgian airline, the airline of Belgium. Boycott it.
We grovel, go around hand in hand, ask Maggie Thatcher and Helmut Kohl and those Belgian pipsqueaks and all the rest, Bettino Craxi. Is it all right? Is it all right? What the heck? I agree with you. I agree with you 100%, Ron. Thank you very much for the call. That slams the lid on things for today. Until tomorrow, this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Yeah. Get Gaddafi.
Bob, I think it's a disgrace when WABC television can cave in to the desires of a bunch of thugs, brigands, and internationalist hegemonists in the Kremlin by canceling the television miniseries America, a fantasy which depicts what this country would be like under the domination of those criminals in Moscow.
I don't know if they've actually canceled it. I think they've postponed it, and they will shorten it from 16 episodes to 12 episodes. What bothers me, Frank, is that they had an impact on what we see here in this country, number one. And number two, what is it that's being eliminated by virtue of cutting back on the series America? What is being eliminated could very well be something that displeased the Soviets. So I agree with you, but I just, for the record, wanted to point out that they're not, to the best of my knowledge, ABC Television is not actually canceling the series, but shortening it.
Well, Bob, by them paring it down from 12 to 16 hours and by cutting down the budget, they could slowly be shelving it. The fact is that Moscow is so upset over fantasies like Rambo and Red Dawn. I think it depicts really how differently they think than we do. They believe that anything that comes out of a film or any of the media in this country should be closely scrutinized by the government, the way it is over there in that hellhole called the Soviet Union. You know, the fact is that movies like that, well, let's put it this way. If the leftists clique, the scum in this country that says movies like Red Dawn and Rambo are fascist trash, that it's upsetting the Kremlin, I can remember in 1975, Bob Grant, when they made that movie Hearts and Minds, which was nothing more than pro-Vietnamese communist propaganda. Do you remember in the Academy Awards when they stood up and applauded that piece of trash?
Yeah.
And I can also remember when you, Bob Grant, criticized them for that, and in turn people called you up and said you were a fascist.
You're right. Right.
Now, the point is, I think that we in America should not have to be dictated to by a bunch of criminals over what we're going to see. Because if ABC caves into these thugs, then my friend, we may as well lay down our arms and open up the door and let them come in here and take over.
All right, Frank. Very well said. Thank you very much.
That distressing article in yesterday's Times on the fact that America was being postponed, the Soviet Union threatened WABC news operations in Moscow could be jeopardized if the miniseries were broadcast. Now, I wonder if the liberals will call that stopping of free speech. I'm sure they won't.
Well, what they would have done would have been to kick out the ABC correspondents in Moscow, and they would have frozen them out, and they never would have been able to operate out of there again.
Well, the Russians let in William Durante, and he was a friend of Stalin's for 20 years because he reported for the New York Times exactly what they wanted to hear.
Between some fink who really, in my opinion, has no right being a program host, some fish-faced fink, I won't even call his name, I won't even tell you his name, but he's the host of an all-night thing on CBS, and his initials are, well, anyway, this fink is interviewing the director of this motion picture and a communist spokesman, a Russian spokesman. And he complains about Red Dawn, and God bless this American director, who also directed Apocalypse Now, or was involved with Apocalypse Now. He says, well, you know, maybe we wouldn't have films like this, like Rambo, for example, and Rocky 4, if you weren't in Afghanistan, if you didn't shoot unarmed passenger planes. Did you happen to hear about that? And this Soviet skunk was absolutely speechless. And this fish-faced fink who hosts the show was absolutely speechless.
Well,
you know, life is full of surprises like this. Of all the 100 members of the United States Senate, there'd be about a half a dozen, I would never expect to say that, a half a dozen who have done everything they possibly could to eviscerate our ability to protect ourselves. Howard Metzenbaum, as indicated, has been one. That lover of the Sandinistas, that friend of the Ortegas, Senator Chris Dodd of Connecticut is another. The equally illustrious Lowell Weicker of Connecticut. Can you imagine being a citizen of Connecticut and having to wake up every day and say that your two senators are Weicker and Dodd? How'd they get on that? Anyway, there's about a half a dozen or so. There's Cranston in California. He's another one winning the Cape Bellarob Award. But Howard Metzenbaum, I just can't tell you how gratified I am to know that there's some spark there in the man. Who knows? Maybe on things for today and for this week. Until Monday, this is Bob Grant reminding you your influence counts. Use it. Yes, get Gaddafi.
Primarily benefit senior citizens, not exclusively, but primarily. So, as the population gets older, which it is now, these programs are going to the amount paid out is going to keep going up. And eventually when I guess it's called the baby boom generation reaches that age, it's really going to be, astronomical. And the reason now I think it's so difficult to change is now, obviously, it's like a circular problem, because now you've got a great deal of senior citizens in the country, and these senior citizens are also voters in this country. So, obviously, they're going to want to preserve these programs, whereas politicians should be seeking some way to change the system because it's going to, cause a lot of problems with the economy. So they have to be sensitive to voters, but at the same time, they should know that it's cutting our own throats in a sense. So I just wonder where the impetus for change is going to come from.
Well, there's no impetus for change because you have people like, you have buffoons like a certain congressman from Florida who goes around saying, don't tamper with Social Security. Yet they tamper with it every time January rolls around and you look at your paycheck and FICA, F-I-C-A.
Right.
And that FICA keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
And that's, of course, your federal deduction for the Social Security. And why does that keep getting bigger and bigger? Because those folks out there, and God love them, they keep getting raises all the time. And in order to give them raises, somebody's got to pay for it. Who's going to pay for it? The working person. So when a congressman says don't tamper with Social Security, I say fine, let's not. Let's stop tampering with the amount of money that those poor young men and women have to shell out each and every week for the rest of the people to keep getting their big raises. And they do get raises every single year.
Cost of living.
That slams the lid on things for today. Until tomorrow, this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi!
I'd like to debunk a part of that movie that was on the other night.
The Right of the People?
That's right, Bob. As Roy Innis so correctly pointed out, it started out all right, but then there was the double cross.
Roy Innis did it. It really had that show pegged.
Oh, I would vote for Roy Innis if he ran for mayor. He has commonsensical solutions. Now, the part I like to debunk is this. The man in the luncheonette, he was an elderly man, and some younger man started arguing with him. And he got up from his seat and pulled out a gun. Now, I'm one who's alive today because for the last 50...
Oh, this is Mo. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Mo. Mo, who admitted in a previous conversation that he and his wife make love with their guns on.
No, Bob.
You remember that time you called me? It was still when I was in purgatory at night, and you admitted that you and your lovely wife make love with your guns on?
Well, in truth, you said...
Is that a kind of a Russian roulette, your version of Russian roulette?
No, I don't have my gun on in the house.
No, but I asked you one time, you were telling me about how you and your wife are armed at all times. I said, do you make love with... And you said yes. Maybe you just said that because you were annoyed, huh?
Just a little joke, maybe.
A little joke.
Bob, what I'd like to say is this. When there are two types of people who carry an illegal gun.
There's you.
And the criminal.
And the criminal.
Now, the difference is, when a criminal is in an argument with someone, he has the mentality, the ego, to pull out his gun and use it.
Well, be careful where you pull it out. You could get in trouble. Thank you very much, Mo. I got to move on because... Mo, because we go from Mo to Joe as...
They had a rating, and they gave Larry King as the best talk house.
Well, the only reason is it's the only national show.
Oh,
and here's the way he does his show. All right, let's hear Stafford, Vermont. And
love you.
He has no knowledge, no background.
Yeah.
He just sits there, and that's one of the reasons this business is so crazy. Because here you got a guy that has absolutely nothing to offer.
Yeah.
And he's fallen into all sorts of things, you know.
What?
I think I'll start talking like that. You know. And we're trying to get a hold of that restaurant, his size restaurant, where Katie Heron, who I guess works either as a receptionist or as a cashier, had seen Donnie Manis come in with Jeffrey Lindenauer, who has been Deputy Director of Parking Violations Bureau, who is charged with that egregious bribe. Now, I'd like to ask whether anybody in this audience and I don't like to call it an audience, anybody in our group, our get-together here, agrees with me that Ed Koch certainly insulted every New Yorker when he said that no matter what, this was not going to hurt Donnie Manis's political career. I can't believe, even though you folks are supposed to have a reputation for putting up with an awful lot, I can't believe that you would just shrug, as Eddie Koch would have you, and go, Donnie's still a nice guy. I cannot believe that. I don't blame... By the way, Mr. Mayor, if you're listening, and I know every now and then on your way to the various restaurants that you schnorr at and various places that you go, you jump in the car and your driver turns on the radio. Sometimes you tell him to turn it off. And I know your driver's a big Bob Grant listener. So maybe you're listening, Your Honor, Mr. Emperor. But really, you owe the people of New York an apology. Of course, we don't expect to get it. But do you really think that low of the people, that no matter what Donnie, as you call him, no matter what Donnie had said, it wouldn't hurt his political career? We're going to try this number again. All right, we'll try dialing again. Let's try. Hello?
Hello?
This is Bob Grant. I'm here on WABC Talk Radio. Is Katie Heron there?
Not at the moment. Can I take a message?
Well, just tell her that I called and... what is your name? I told you that I'm Bob Grant here on WABC. What is your name?
Can I take a message, sir?
I beg your pardon?
Can I take a message, please?
Yeah, you can. Do you work with Katie?
Yes, can I take a message, please?
Yes, you can. You can tell her that I called. In the meantime, let me ask you, have you seen Donnie Manis? With that, she hung up. How do you like that? Manis's career is really in eclipse. You ask, have you seen Donnie Manis? And people hang up. Let's get back to, that slams the lid on things for today. Until tomorrow at 2 o'clock, this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi. The Bob Grant program salutes a real hero. We're talking about Arnold Conti. Who's Arnold Conti? He's a jeweler who has a shop in Greenwich Village, and he helped rid society of a mutant, a predator. He helped rid us of a perpetual enemy of society. Conti, who was critically wounded, by the way, 4 years ago in a similar hold-up attempt at his store, Victoria Jewelers, said the police said the latest robbery attempt occurred at 2:38 yesterday when a 27-year-old mutant, whose name was not released, and what difference does it make, pulled a .32 caliber revolver. The gunman announced, "This is a holdup." Conti went for his pistol. There was a brief struggle, and each person fired one shot. Conti was struck in the shoulder. The bullet exited through his neck. He's listed in fair condition. He's going to be all right. Don't worry, he's going to recover. The gunman died. So, congratulations and thank you, Arnold Conti, for getting rid of an enemy of society. Well, I see that William Kunstler is a big supporter of Governor Mario Cuomo. Well, that's the worst news Mario had since he lost to Eddie Koch in 1977. And here's some more bad news for Donnie Manis. Here's a quote. I'm quoting now. Quote, "Donnie has been my buddy since 1974. And he has never done anything to change my pride in him as an elected official, as my borough president, and as my county leader. You know who said that? Geraldine Ferraro.
First of all, Governor Cuomo, a man I despise, he is not stupid. And why he's doing this with McGivern, I cannot understand, with the possible exception that he is a lawyer, and he's a member of a law firm, or some of his relatives are a member of law.
No, don't go look for it. Don't go look for anything even semi-logical. The fact of the matter is that Cuomo is a bleeding heart. He suffers from massive bleeding of the heart.
I'm a retired cop. I just want to make a couple of comments on this Donald Manny's thing.
Good.
And I want to go back to last year when all those cops in the 106th precinct were accused of using stun guns on people and all like that.
Yeah.
And D.A. Santuzzi come out immediately and said that there was a big blue wall of silence went up and he couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
Now, apparently, the big political wall of silence went up with this Donald Manny's thing, but he wasn't concerned with that at all. He's making comments and saying, like, well, if he said it, we have to believe him. But he wasn't willing to believe the cops when they were saying that they didn't do anything wrong either. So he talks out of both sides of his mouth.
Well, don't forget, they're members of the same party. They're members of the same political club. And don't forget, Donnie is Johnny's political leader.
Of course.
Here, Jerry Ferraro. Remember her, the chin?
Right.
The pugnacious one?
Yes.
Remember what she said? He's my leader. I love him.
Yep.
You know?
Sure.
I love him. So the contempt that these people are showing for the people is obvious. But this will make you feel a little better, George. There were a lot of no-shows at that much-heralded Donnie Manis birthday party. Did you know that?
I didn't. No.
Yeah, so I think what they were doing is drawing up a list of the dummies who went and the rats who are deserting the ship.
Yeah.
Well, I've been to many a fair myself. Anton's out in Queens Village.
Queens Village, I work
Yeah.
in the precinct.
Yeah, matter of fact, I've been to Anton's many times when they've had political affairs. You had to walk in there with hip boots. It got so high. Show up. And to show you what a bankrupt group that was, the loudest applause went to the chin. She got the loudest applause.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm here, you know, in that whining voice of hers.
Right.
I'm here to support Don and the organization, she said.
Enough to make you vomit.
Well, I'll tell you, they did have a pucatorium right next door. Listen, till then, Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi.
Yep. Yes, Bob, you've had a hard day. I think you need a box of Kotex.
No, it wasn't a hard day at all. As a matter of fact, it's been a great day. And with that, Diane is hanging up. She said I needed a box of Kotex and then hung up. Now, you wonder what is going through the minds of some of these subhumans, these mutations. What is going through their mind that they say these idiotic things? And, of course, the answer is, what minds? Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi. Let's see. Mo, you're on 77 WABC. Hello.
Hi, Bob. A very important item in the Post today, but it got overshadowed by some other news. On a slow day, I'm sure it would have been front page. The item being that the state Supreme Court ruled that people who were crime victims, the perp being a parole violator, can now sue the parole board. And I urge people to get their pens ready to remind them to write to Mario Cuomo's office in Albany not to appeal this. Can you imagine Cuomo's office? It hinted in the paper, plan to appeal this ruling. That's a smack in the face against everyone out there crippled and maimed by a crime victim.
Mo, I want to tell you something. I predicted that we would have this type of legislation someday. I didn't know it would be now. I didn't know it would be here in the state of New York. That's number one. Number two, I know it was hinted that the Cuomo administration would appeal. Let me give you some inside information. They will appeal. Did you get that? They will appeal.
Knowing Cuomo's favorite pets, it seems,
are those in Murderers Row and other criminals. I predict that if Mario Cuomo runs, it'll be the best thing for fair-minded people because he will do no better than George McGovern and Walter Mondale. All the Republicans have to do, if the Democrats choose this socialist, Cuomo, to be their standard bearer, is show the Democratic speech he made at the convention. He's just a clone of Mondale. And I have a good crime tip for people out there. All they have to do is walk the streets with a marked bill. The cab drivers do this. They're told when they get their hack license to have a bill that's marked in case they get robbed, and then it's very easy to nail the perp.
All right.
Don't you think that's a good hint?
Yeah, it's better than the last one you gave, Mo. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Different walks of life, and that makes me feel good. We had Tom, who was going to talk about Bishop Tutu, but Tom hung up because Tom is a lazy cajon. I don't understand. If people get through and they hear the distinguished gentleman in the control room tell them they've reached the inner sanctotum of the Bob Grant Show, they should be grateful and wait instead of being so immature and impatient. You see what I'm up against? Joe, do the sign-off. I'm too upset.
Gaddafi, Solarz, and listen to Bob Grant. The best in the world.
All right, thank you, Joe.
Better believe. John!
That slams the lid on things for today. You heard what Joe said. Do it.
Good afternoon, Bob.
Yes, Frank.
Okay, Bob, I want to tell you something about Joey Spinata's family. Fine people. One of the best appointments that the governor made over there. I remember talking to Maurice Najari when he was on Queens Boulevard running for office over there. He was very disrupted when he didn't make it and so on and so forth. But the part of it is the Spinata family, if Joey over there ends up...
What? Wait a minute. What family?
Spinata. Spinito, whatever it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's a guy. He wants to endorse, give his personal imprimatur of a guy we had on the program, and he doesn't even know the name of the guy.
Well, I'll put it to you this way, Bob. The Italian names, sometimes I make a mistake. I'm very sorry. You're 100%.
But here you want to call like you know the guy.
I don't know him.
Oh, you don't know him? Well, then why are you so praiseworthy of him?
No, because I know of his family.
Oh, really? How can you say you know his family when you don't even know the name of the family?
What?
You said you know his family. You don't even know the name of the family.
Well, I know your name.
Yeah, change the subject. That's right. Change the subject.
Your name is nothing. You understand what I'm...
You know why my name is nothing?
Look it.
Because I don't let phonies get away with... Ginzo. What does Ginzo mean? Hello? Hello? He's gone. He called me a Ginzo blankety blank. Now, that's a new word on me, Ginzo. That's a brand new word. I swear, hope to die, cross my heart, my liver, my spleen, my pancreas. I never heard that. What the heck is that? He called me a Ginzo and then implied that my parents weren't married. And that was dutifully cut by our eminent producer-director. But I don't understand. Now, you see, here's a guy. Let me explain something. Here's a guy, for whatever reason, I don't know, I'm not a psychiatrist, wanted to act as though he knew Joseph Spinelli, the guest. And he wanted to say, it's the best appointment the governor ever had. I know the family. And he had said Spinato. And I thought, let me ask him again. Maybe he just was excited and maybe he made a mistake. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. After he got through saying, yeah, over there was the best, very good, over there, whatever over there is. And then I asked him again. I said, what is the name? Spinato. And he doesn't know. Here's a guy who says he knows the family, goes all the way back, doesn't know. What am I supposed to do? Be a faccio content and pretend, play the part of the contented fool? Be like these other talk show hosts who pretend they didn't notice the guy's making a fool of himself? Pretend they didn't know the guy's being a two-bit phony and lying? No, I can't do that. I won't do that. And John, if you're still listening, you're a bigoted, no-good creep. No.
First thing I'd like to say is I'd like to express my sympathies to John for the death of his daughter by that subhuman mongrel who, by the way, will be eligible to be pardoned by next Christmas by our blame everything on Ronald Reagan governor. The main thing I called you about today was that I really got a kick out of what happened last week when all the callers were chastising you for picking on Donald Maness after he admitted that he tried to kill himself and said they were saying leave him alone, he's let him recover now, it's all over with, and you felt that something was fishy and it should be investigated more. I'd like to know where all those callers are. And in my mind's eye, I was seeing all the red faces and the feet in the mouth of all those liberal Democrats that threw that inane birthday in absentia for Donald Maness, and the Iron Jaw getting up there and say, what is he, a doctor?
Talking about Detective Chief Nicastro.
Yeah. I was talking about...
the Chin was talking about Detective Chief Nicastro.
Yeah. And how embarrassed they must be. They were trying so hard not to find something wrong with him. How did you like the nerve of her thinking that we wouldn't know what she was trying to do when she offered to step into the Borough Queen's president footsteps and say, I'll take the job for nothing. She knows that what happens a lot of times is that eventually they'll say, well, look, since she's there, let her stay there. We'll give her the job. She thought we wouldn't notice that. She was trying to be slick.
That's right. John, you're right on target. Thank you very much.
Yes, Bob?
Yes.
Bob, this week, a man who I consider my personal hero is in the United States seeking support and recognition for the forces of Free Angola UNITA. I speak of the magnificent Dr. Jonas Savimbi, the George Washington of Black Africa. This man, this hero, is made of the stuff of mythic proportions. 10 years ago, in the darkest times of United States foreign policy, when Soviet expansion and adventuristic aggression was sweeping throughout the Third World, it looked as if America was on the wrong side of history. Yet who would have dared to have dreamt at that time that this hero would arise to stand up and spit in the eye of the Soviet aggressors? Outmanned and outgunned, outnumbered, Dr. Jonas Savimbi has led a magnificent struggle for the liberation of the Angolan fatherland against 30,000 Cuban, 8,000 Soviet, 5,000 North Korean mercenaries. And now that he's in this country seeking support, the same gas bags that are coming out of the woodwork are seeking to criticize him. What kind of stupidity is our foreign policy when we have someone who's leading a true liberation movement against the Soviet colonialist lackeys that are in Angola's capital, Luanda? Winnie Mandela, that gas bag, called him a bandit. I think it shows, Bob, where her political allegiance would lie if the great Republic of South Africa were ever overthrown. Stephen Solarz, who crawls out of the woodwork to embrace Sandinista outlaws, to grovel in North Korea before Kim Il-sung, hasn't sought to give a nickel or a dime of support to this magnificent hero. And what is he asking? A pittance of $15 million? While billions are being poured down the funnel into Angola?
Yeah, he's probably not going to get it because of the fact that there are nerds in the State Department who have some weird idea that somehow or other helping him would be counterproductive to our foreign policy. I haven't figured that one out yet.
Well, you know, Bob, isn't it amazing that they'll always say, let's be nice to whatever Soviet lackeys or colonialist regimes are in power in the third world because we're not going to push them into their arms? Why don't they say, well, let's give the good Dr. Savimbi some support so he won't need...
I'll tell you how your hero, who's in this country right now, can suddenly get that support. Announce today, right now, that he is a Marxist, and he'll probably get that support.
You're right, Bob.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Why do you feel it incumbent upon you, Frank, to defend the mayor?
Well,
You're not a friend of his, are you?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm a resident of Queens, and
And
I'm
by the way, are you using a gas mask out there?
No.
You're just not breathing, huh?
Well, it's all going to be taken care of in the court.
Sounds ominous. It sounds like everybody's going to be in the East River. That's what Paul Needlenose Menadja said one day. When there was a bit of a problem on Mott Street. He said it'll all be taken care of. The next day they found 6 guys floating in the East River. Hi. Rocco, you're on 77 WABC. Hello. Rocco? Oofa, abava nobili, Rocco. You creep, you couldn't wait. What's going on here? You know what? It's probably not Rocco's fault. It's probably having some kind of problem with the line. Did he?
Yeah, he did a lot for him.
I see. For them. You say for them.
You know, for the Americans, I said.
I see. Are you an American?
Yes, I am.
I see. I guess that includes you then.
Uh-huh.
What did he do for you?
What did he do for me?
Yeah.
I don't know. He did a lot.
Well, since he did a lot, just name one.
Well, you know, the schmaltz, it kind of grew, you know.
What? I tell you what, pal. They're having a special at Creedmoor this week. If you check in before 6 o'clock, you'll get Ward C5, which has a great view of the eastern part of the island. And they have an attendant there that when he takes you to the toy is very nice. Get off the phone, you creep!
Well, I don't know if that's the exact scenario, but that's what's happening.
Well, let me tell you, you people in this area, you're so smart, you're dumb. It's not going to work. First of all, he's going to be dragged into federal court. You don't think they'd let him go to court in Queens? You don't think any Queens judge could preside over a Donnie Manners case? A Queens judge that owes his life to his job to Donnie? You don't think Johnny Santucci's office could really prosecute, do you? Johnny Santucci, who owes his nice, cushy job as Queens DA to Donnie? Huh?
I don't think he can, but...
Now, it's got to be done in a federal court, and it will be done in a federal court if indeed that's what happens. Chances are he'll cop a plea.
Yeah.
Chances are there won't even be a court case. Chances are it'll be all kinds of plea bargaining. It'll make your head swim.
Yeah.
And for all we know, Donnie may again emerge as a guy who was driving around for 7 hours all around Shea Stadium, allegedly trying to find out where he wants to sit for the Met opening game in 1986. And he could feel metal on the back of his neck that entire time. That means that one of the two guys really had a steady hand, that he was able to hold something up, whether it was a gun, Hey, look, the whole thing is ridiculous, and shame on the Gavones of New York for creating a one-party system that makes way for this incredible, arrogant corruption. On things for today. Until tomorrow, our regular time on our regular program at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Oh, yes. Get Gaddafi.
The guest speaker on the Michael Jackson show did say that the American people are so quick to blame one individual for the whole world's problems. What would happen if Gaddafi died tomorrow? All terrorism would be over.
Well, I don't think anybody's blaming Muammar Gaddafi for the whole world's problems. But correctly, what we're blaming him for is the instigating and financing and directing of terrorist acts.
Why be so quick to
Nobody's being so quick. This guy's been doing this since 1969.
No, I mean...
Who the heck put you up to this call? Or are you just dumb on your own?
Why were you so quick to yell at the other guy?
Because he's just as pro-Gaddafi as you are.
I'm not pro-Gaddafi.
Well, you certainly sound like it.
No, that's not the case.
Helen, are you there? Helen's not there. I didn't want this guy to be the last call because I didn't want to leave off with a bad taste. Anyway, that slams the lid on things for today. Until tomorrow, this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. And, yes, get Gaddafi.
Implications of the federal court's decision on the Yonkers case. I think it had to do with segregation, segregated schools, what it implies for the rest of the country. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. And what it implies is a continuation of this madness of nose counting. What it implies is that no matter who is in the White House, we're going to have this insane obsession with color schemes. And whenever any militant civil rights group, which is a redundancy, by the way, wants to go around saying, gee, we don't like the color scheme here at this school, they blame the school board, they blame the local authorities, they blame Halley's Comet, they blame everything but themselves. And the Yonkers situation is absolutely absurd. It's ridiculous. I know Dr. Joan Raymond as a very capable person. I know Mayor Martinelli. These people are not guilty of any kind of gerrymandering for the purpose of segregation. These people have been trying to bring Yonkers back from the dead, and they were beginning to do it. And now, with this absurd social maneuvering, social engineering, it's going to hurt.
But this case is actually fairly dangerous because from what I understand, they said that there has to be low-income housing in the wealthier areas of Yonkers.
Well, that's right. You know there are these people who by the way, they themselves want to live in a nice posh neighborhood. They themselves don't want the lowlifes taking their hubcaps and all those other things.
Right.
But they don't want anybody else to have that ability. You know, this country was supposed to have been all about upward mobility on an individual basis. It wasn't supposed to be for egalitarianism. This wasn't supposed to be an egalitarian society.
Sure.
Well, what that would mean would be that these no-good skunks, and that's what they are,
right,
would come in and look around the schools and see what the color scheme was.
Right.
And if they didn't like the color scheme, if they didn't think there was a mix, then they would do the next thing and find out why there were so many blacks here and not enough blacks there. And then when they found that the housing patterns, that the school only reflected the housing patterns, they'd say there was something wrong with the housing patterns. Don't you get it? They've got an answer for everything. And they've won victory after victory after victory while they destroy this country. And the schlubs, the vast majority of us, white and black, who have some higher standards, we're just mowed down. We're just steamrollered because nobody has the guts to stand up to them. That's why.
Well, what happened?
So the consequences, Stephen, are incalculable, and they win all the time. They win because we've got judges who maybe have been sniffing coke. I don't know what's happening. Maybe it's in the water these judges drink,
Bob,
or the ice cubes. What?
It's almost like a dictatorship.
Well, I'll let you know where to write me, pal. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Oh, listen, I heard what that state Republican chairman said about not wanting to take advantage of Donnie's misfortune.
Can you believe a great chairman like George Clark being succeeded by, pardon me, Tony Colavita? Yeah.
Talk about senza coglions, you know.
Oh, hey, not only senza coglione, senza cittadella.
This just confirmed.
That means no cycle, folks, no cycle.
No,
the time that slams lid on things for today. Until tomorrow, this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi.
You know what this like? Their strong Spanish lobby wouldn't mean a thing.
Well, that's it. They only hear from the Hispanic lobby, and we English-speaking jerks, they never hear from us.
Nope.
Yeah.
Right.
And let me tell you, Republican and Democrat alike, they're only interested in one thing. Getting elected, getting reelected, getting reelected again. I mean, this footsie that Al D'Amato and Mario Cuomo are playing is beginning to make me sick.
Right.
I won't say anything bad about you, Mario. Don't you say anything bad about me. Okay, Alphonse.
Oh?
Yes.
You had commented before, or not commented, actually, that on the fact that teachers work only 3/4 time?
I didn't say that. The caller said it.
The caller said it, and you never commented against it.
No, I didn't comment against it because I think we've coddled teachers. I think they're overpaid. I think most of them aren't qualified.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to hide behind a caller. I'd never do that.
All right. Well, what do you think teachers do? That we work only part-time?
I didn't say that. By the way, prior to your picking up the phone and making this call, what have you been doing?
Working and studying.
Working and studying?
Yes.
Working and studying.
Right.
At home?
Well, yes, at home now. I've gone through several books.
Several books? Yeah. Have you gone through several bottles?
What?
Have you gone through several bottles?
Bottles of what?
You tell me. I don't know.
I don't know.
Wine is very fashionable these days. Maybe it's wine.
No.
I see. Huh?
What I have been doing is...
You sound like you're having a little trouble getting the words out. Do you know what I mean? No. Oh.
I'm tired because I worked a long time. I studied a long time.
All right, you've been studying and you've been working, but you've also been listening to the Bob Grant program.
What?
But you've also been listening to the radio, to WABC.
I've been listening to you, yes.
Well, I'm glad you're listening, but how can you do 3 things at once?
Well, many people have to do 3 things at once.
I see. Are you a school teacher?
I teach, yes.
Huh? You teach. That's kind of an equivocal answer you've given me here. What do you teach and where?
Well, I teach in a school. I'm not going to reveal more because I don't think that personal questions are appropriate.
What kind of questions are appropriate?
Why do you think that teachers have an easy time and are overpaid?
I think teachers are overpaid because I don't think that they deserve the money that they've been getting through their strong-arm tactics by going out on strike. I used to be a great admirer of teachers, but that was before they started joining these unions and going out on strike. Now they're not deserving of being called dedicated.
What is dedication?
Well, dedication is...
dedication for you that you can go home and you have nothing to do at night, but a teacher has to go home and grade papers.
Well, then they shouldn't be teachers. Then they shouldn't be teachers. Who shanghaied them into becoming teachers?
Who shanghaied anybody to do anything?
That's right.
But the children of the country are not worth...
Please. Come on. You're not running for public office here.
No, I'm not. But I do not believe that education needs to be underpaid and not supported.
Well, I think that teachers get all the fringe benefits that they've been getting.
What fringe benefits?
What fringe benefits? If you're a teacher, you know what fringe benefits. And I don't really think you're a teacher, really. I think you're very suspicious. Here it is, a plain old weekday, and you've been home working and reading or working and studying, which is an interesting dichotomy, but also listening to WABC. I don't know. You just don't ring true to me.
Well, I don't know what ringing true means.
What ringing true means is that you are what you say you are. Are you a teacher?
Yes.
A bona fide teacher? You earn your living teaching?
Mostly. I have to do other things to earn my living as well.
Well, what are the other things you do?
Well, I type. I work as a secretary. I do editing to continue to support my family.
Yeah, You're the breadwinner in your family?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You have youngsters?
Yes.
How young?
4.
4 years old?
4 years old.
Oh, I see. Well, then you must be younger than I thought you were. How old are you?
What?
How old are you?
Why does it make... I'm 38, actually.
Why is it that when I ask you certain questions, you have to use adverbs or adjectives like actually? Why don't you just say, well, I'm 38? Why actually?
Well, what difference does it make whether I am 20 or 50?
Well, it doesn't make any difference except that I find you not credible. And because I find you not credible, I'm suspicious of virtually everything you say.
Well, why am I not credible? Because a 38-year-old woman does not have a 4-year-old child?
No, because you sound to me as though you've been dancing on the grape. That's the main problem here. See...
Radio announcers earning what do you earn?
Radio announcers? I don't know from radio announcers, but I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this, we're not on the taxes. If I get a raise, your taxes don't go up. But if you get a raise, our taxes do go up. See, there's the big difference.
But then your children get better training when you get better teachers.
Yeah, better teachers. I hope we get better teachers someday. If not in this life, in the next. Thank you, Petra. Ash Slam's lit on things for today until tomorrow at 2 o'clock. If Hank Berg's forecast allows us. Here's Bob Grant reminding you your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi.
No, but what I would have liked to see the mayor do is, in those 4 years, why not try another sting operation or ask another sting operation?
Well, did we elect the mayor to be a U.S. attorney or an FBI or some kind of police agency?
No, but I would think that he would have asked the DOI to follow up.
Follow up on specifically on Manus?
Or anybody else that may have been.
Well, if the mayor was naive about Manus, he had a lot of company. As a matter of fact, as recently as back in January, the Chin, who had run for vice president in 1984 at Anton's restaurant, said Chief of Detectives Nicastro didn't know what the heck he was talking about. She snidely said, what is he, a doctor? He wants to tell us that the wounds were self-inflicted on our guy, Donnie?
Yeah.
The Chin made I'm glad she made such a fool of herself, because any possibility that we might have her inflicted on us, her invade our privacy anymore, I think has been removed.
I agree.
And there's really no point in interviewing Daniel Moynihan. I'll tell you why. We had him on this program about 2.5 weeks ago, and we're still trying to figure out what he said. I thought it was Gertrude Stein with dyspepsia, because, you know, when you interview Moynihan, when you hear Moynihan, it sounds like he's going to burp any minute. Anyway, if you recall, I said to Moynihan when he was talking about what he said, we've got to face this problem. And I said, well, what is the answer? And he said, Bob, what is the question? I'll never forget that.
He used that again today on Donahue.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, he's getting a lot of mileage out of it. Hello.
Hello, Bob. Bob?
Hello, Norman.
Hello, Bob?
Yes, Norman, this is Bob.
Okay. All night last night I was thinking I couldn't wait for you to get in on your program. I was very annoyed with the advertising on television. The ones that are celebrating Washington and Lincoln's birthday are all the Japanese companies. Abachi and Hitachi. All these guys are behind wherever they can make money. It just burned me up. I put my flag out this morning, and I just said I can't wait for 2 o'clock. How do you feel about that?
Well, I want to point out a couple of things. First of all, nobody forces anybody to buy any product. You buy it because you either get the best price, or you think it's the best quality, or a combination of both. Secondly, when the Japanese entered American markets, they competed with American companies, and they beat their pants off because the Japanese worker has been more conscientious and has taken more pride in his workmanship than the American worker. The Japanese have been able to produce products for less money, and so the American consumer has benefited. Remember also that if it's a Japanese car, who is the dealer who sells that car? I'll tell you who. He's an American. Who are the salesmen? They're Americans. Americans make a lot of money selling foreign products. And I'm getting a little sick and tired of hearing people talk as though Americans don't benefit from these foreign products. I'd like to beat the Japanese, but you know what? I want to beat them fair and square. I want to beat them because Detroit comes out with a better car and stops charging so damn much money. I want to beat them because we come out with a better camera that doesn't cost so damn much money. I want to come out with a better television set, a better VCR. I want to beat them in the ring, so to speak. Thank you. It isn't what I think, it's what I happen to know. Mm-hmm. And I happen to know that George Clark made no deal with Ed Koch at that time. The deal that was made came in 1981, or in late in 1981 is when the deal was made to support Ed Koch for mayor.
Well, what about when he passed the remark about him being a two-faced, double-dealing, and that he never did anything for anyone, that he didn't gain by himself? Did you hear that part?
Yes. Why? And where do you think I was over the weekend? On Mars?
Oh.
Of course.
Well, all righty then, Bob.
I mean, I don't care. Look, just because Roy Cohn said it on television doesn't make it so, does it?
Oh, definitely not.
Okay.
But I think that there was some truth to it.
Get off the phone, will you? I have to laugh at these people. You know, why ask me what I think if you've already made up your mind what you think? Don't waste your time calling me, asking me. And if you must call, then just call and say, Bob, here's what I think, period. But don't ask me what I think and then tell me what I think is not right. Hey, bye, Catherine. Charlie, you're on 77 WABC on the Northern Suburban line.
Hey, listen, Bob, will you sit down? This way you don't fall over when you find out who's calling you.
Ladies and gentlemen, need I tell you that dulcet tone, that magnificent voice, is the voice of the one and only, the original Goombata from Yonkers.
I think if the emperor wants to get in good stature with the people of New York City again, he should declare an amnesty. Make all these cowboys even and start anew.
All right, Goombata, good hearing from you.
Listen.
You call again real soon, will you?
I will.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Goombata from Yonkers. Well, that makes it official, Harley.
Did you know that the mayor is talking about doing just that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the emperor is talking about doing just that, declaring an amnesty. It's all about that Soviet pianist who, because he had signed a statement in support of Anatoly Sharansky, when he went to play his piano, found that the KGB, under orders of Gorbachev, had removed most of the strings from the piano. A whole host of ugly things had happened. Right after that, it was announced that Stanford University has invited Mikhail Gorbachev as a commencement speaker. And yet, if Ferdinand Marcos were invited, there would be catcalling on the... He couldn't do it. The students would protest. Fascinating. I wish I could put myself on ice, be a cryogenic baby, and come back about 50 to 100 years from now to find out what perversity in the American psyche, especially on American campuses, has it that a communist skunk killer dictator could be welcome on a college campus where anybody else who was less than perfect, and Marcos is far from perfect, couldn't be. I hope this doesn't sound like I'm trying to make a case for him. I'm not. I just don't understand why leftists are welcome on college campuses, even today, in the enlightened 5th year of the Ronald Reagan presidency. I don't understand. Until tomorrow, this is Bob Grant, reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi! The power. Yes, Bernie.
Yes, Bob, over the weekend I was able to see parts of Mario Cuomo's Lincoln Day address on public television.
Yes.
I was wondering if I could quote a sentence from that address that I was able to tape from that program.
That's all right. I haven't eaten recently, so go ahead.
Quote, "Our identity as a people is held hostage to the grim facts of more than 33 million Americans for whom equality is not yet an attainable reality, but only an illusion." End quote. Now, Bob, since when is equality an illusion? Is it not carved in the Lincoln Memorial that it is a self-evident truth that there is equality, and what Lincoln would call a self-evident truth, and what Jefferson would call a self-evident truth, Mario Cuomo would call an illusion, Bob? Give me a break.
I'm glad you brought that up because Lincoln scholars who either read his address given in Springfield, Illinois, or heard it, said that Mario Cuomo just obviously didn't know Abraham Lincoln and had his history all goofed up. It was also described as one of the most self-serving speeches they had ever heard.
Yes, yes.
On the plus side, if this is a plus, they gave him good marks for acting, good performance.
Yeah.
Good timing.
Well, that's not...
some of the greatest actors are not people who've appeared before the motion picture cameras or on the stage at all, but people who appear in Governor's Mansion in Albany, Gracie Mansion in New York, etc.
Absolutely, Bob.
But the presidential candidate, of course, is a good enough performer that he probably is going to convince the people of New York to let him continue earning the 110 plus all the fringies while he runs for president.
Bob,
What did you say?
Who else did a better job in the governorship?
Oh, really? Well, I don't know that he's done. You see, you're the type of jerk that really annoys me. I'll tell you why. You ask a question, I give you an answer, but you don't want that answer. So why don't you be a real man and make a statement from the beginning? Don't ask me a question.
Get off the air. You're a faggot.
I beg your pardon?
You're a faggot.
A what?
A faggot.
I can't understand. Faggot?
You got it.
Is that the best you could do?
Hey, I could say a lot.
That's the best you could... Listen, you two-bit gavone, you come down here and say that, I'll punch your nose right down your throat, you creep. Let's say hello to Mo on 77 WABC.
Yes, it's very interesting to note that there's more sleaze, it seems, every day coming out of the Koch administration. The latest is this. A court decision mandates that they cannot bother the gypsies, so the gypsies are riding around free without any supervision. However, he did not lay off these 150 taxi inspectors.
How do you feel about his statement that he's so upset about the PVB scandal, quote, I could kill someone, unquote? Who's that someone, do you suppose?
Well, probably himself deep down.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
But one of the taxi drivers know where these hack inspectors hang out, and they hang out three to a group. Groups of them. When they're not standing around train depots, they're traveling around three to a car to harass cab drivers for such things as spot checks on their trip cards.
You're not a cab driver, are you?
No, but I work with cab drivers. I service them over here.
What do you mean? What do you do?
Well, I run a garage.
You run a garage?
Yes.
Do you keep your 38 on at all times?
I got a 45, Bob.
A 45?
Right.
Benedict. All right. Thank you, Mo.
Thank you, Bob.
That slams the lid on things for today. Till tomorrow, Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi. Bob. Yes, Al.
Yes, I'd like to talk about the phoniness of the Steve Solarz of this world.
Al, where have you been lately, Al? You've been on vacation somewhere?
No, I'm going on vacation. I've been up at OTB.
Well, you haven't been talking to me much lately.
Well, I work. I have to work between 2 and 6.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Solarz forgets what happened in was it Zimbabwe, Rhodesia, when Dr. Ferraro won the election, and then it was taken away from him by the Lord Carringtons and the Andrew Youngs, who then put in with another election and had
Mugabe
get in with about 5,000 people being killed. Nothing said about that phony election. In Ethiopia, there's a group out of Harvard that said there are at least between 50 and 100,000 dead already in Ethiopia. and nothing about Mengistu. Not a word about it in the papers. You don't.
The only word you hear is one guy that publishes a newspaper in the New York area came back and said that Mengistu was doing a good job, and we weren't giving the Addis Ababa government enough credit. I looked into that idiotic statement, and I found that this guy either A, is in his heart of hearts a no-good pinko, or is absolutely stupid, because the truth of the matter is, thanks to that government, more Ethiopians are starving than any other factor, including the weather.
Well, if black Africans are slaughtered by black Marxist regime, nobody cares.
No, that's right. Randall Robinson of the Trans-Africa movement, he doesn't care.
No.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care if Idi Amin were to come back to Uganda and try to eclipse his past records for a genocide because they're black. It's a curious thing about the mentality, the psyche of a Randall Robinson who really sees nothing wrong with hundreds of thousands of corpses as long as those corpses were put there by blacks. Well, and who are the corpses? The corpses themselves are black.
Yeah, communists. I mean, there's no question. There's no question of that. I don't think there's anything. And how about Mr. Solarz, who happens to be Jewish as I am? Not a word about the anti-Semitism rife in Nicaragua, where they burned down the synagogues, threw the Jews out of whoever were there in Nicaragua to placate the PLO. And in Cuba, a Jew is not allowed to teach Hebrew to the people, and the Jews there are gone under communism.
You know, I'll tell you something. Al, you said you were Jewish, and you raise a point here that non-Jews just can't address. They just can't figure out. Why you take a Jew who could be understandably very militant when it comes to the preservation of Israel, and yet when it comes to any leftist committing atrocities, or perhaps not even as bad as atrocity, but committing any kind of aggressive action towards Jews, they don't say a word. You take Ed Asner, the president of Screen Actors Guild. He's Jewish. He's Jewish, yet he thinks Ortega is peachy keen great. Great.
Well, these people should be exposed.
Well, I don't understand. Let me ask you, Al, since you've identified yourself as Jew, can you shed any light? What is the thinking process that goes on with a Solarz or an Asner or somebody like that?
The commies. I mean, there's any question about it. Maybe not Solarz, but deep down, Ed Asner's a lefty. In his mother's womb, he was facing left when he was born. There's no question of that. You mean they're so in love with the Marxist ideology that their own Jewishness, they don't care if they destroy their own Jewishness? That comes first. Do they know that the synagogue was destroyed in Nicaragua? They don't know that. They don't even care about it. That the Jews can't practice their Judaism in Havana? They don't know that. Thank God, and this I've read in several places, Israel is providing aid to the Contras. They can't admit that, but that's true. You know, you'll read it in certain places, but thank God. At least Israel knows what they're doing, and Israel deals with South Africa. Look at South Africa. I mean, there's another case. Solarz wants to take care of that country, but then who do you want to let in? The communists.
Al, you've called me off and on for some time now, and I recognize a grasp of issues which, of course, would appeal to me because they're in concert with mine. But I'm curious, what is it that you're reading that some of my other listeners aren't reading? Why is it you're so well informed compared to some other people?
You just read everything you can get your hands on.
But you must be reading something in addition.
Well, Are
you reading commentary?
No. I read I have the New Republic right here, which is a left.
Yeah.
The left of.
You don't read commentary? What about National Review?
No, I don't read the National Review.
I'm impressed because you're not reading two publications which have been pointing.
I read the New Republic because I think that is basically a liberal thing that is balanced. It's, what's his name in there? Fred Barnes who's come all the way around. You know that. Fred Barnes admits that he was duped in being against the war in Vietnam, and he came out with a scathing attack on the human rights people in Nicaragua.
Well, it's very difficult to figure out somebody like Fred Barnes writing for the New Republic, isn't it?
Well, he's down the middle. What's his name? Krauthammer's very good. He's basically down the middle, and Kondraki's excellent. He may be...
Well, Kondraki's now with Newsweek.
Yes, but he was there.
Yeah.
For many years, that's where he's done.
Well, I tell you, Kondraki has improved his outlook since he's been hanging around with John McLaughlin.
Max Lerner was a socialist. Now he's to the right now.
Max Lerner is one of the most brilliant observers of the political scene in the world today. Thank you very much, Al.
Thank you.
I don't think because there are people who overdose in drugs that the American Medical Association is supposed to say, well, there are people overdosing in drugs, so let's not focus on anything else. Boxing is idiotic. Boxing is not a sport. Where is it a sport that two guys get up in the ring with the idea of knocking each other's brains?
Well,
is that a sport? Is that what you like to see? You like to see people fighting each other? Is that what you consider entertainment?
I don't like to see him be unconscious on
Well, what is it? You want your guy to knock out the other guy, don't you?
Well, if he can do it in 1 or 2 punches, that's...
Oh, great. And what happens when a guy's knocked out? What happens to the brain, you dummy? Huh? Tell me. How do you suppose a guy is standing up 1 minute, the next minute he's down? Huh?
What?
There's a little blood clot on his brain that occurs through the concussion.
Well, how about all these kids with the drugs?
What has that got to do with boxing?
Well, for God's sake...
Hey, you, Gabon, you're a real first-class Gabon.
No, I'm not.
Ah, get out of here. I can't take it. Name up there at Middlebury was the pharmacist.
It's a joke, Bob. It's an absolute joke that they're paying $20. He was actually putting a minority out of work.
You know, the arrogance of his mother... in her acerbic campaigns, in her conduct as a public person, in her extreme partisanship, which has gone beyond the partisanship of, I would say, 90% of people in political life, makes me think that there's something poetically, some poetic justice in this. Because I think that when a public official, for whatever reason, becomes as arrogant as some of our public officials do, that it is retributive justice when they are brought down by virtue of something of this kind, don't you?
Bob, I think that it would be very good for therapy if he took a room at Donnie Manners' house, because, they would both be, both brought shame upon their family in this respect. But, Bob, you hear people say so often, they brought such great shame on their family, I feel sorry for the family. Well, look, the family got a free ride on them. If one person in the family does good, everybody gets a free ride. Everybody gets entree and entrance to, various things that they otherwise wouldn't get entree or entrance to. And then when they fall off the coattails, that's just...
Well, I can't help but I can't help but wonder. I know there are a lot of parents who did the best they could.
Oh, absolutely.
And had this type of thing happen, and of course they were shocked. And nothing is worse than having something bad happen to your child. But here we have a person who was very sanctimonious, who was very arrogant, who conducted one of the most strident, one of the most vile campaigns in the history of presidential and vice presidential politics. Now what does she have to say? Now what does this holier-than-thou individual have to say? What can she say? Thank you very much.
I wanted to discuss, in reference to now, I understand Harry Belafonte is getting into the act.
Well, he might. He might be getting in the act, yeah.
Yeah, you think he's going to sing that record, Babalu? And he's going to get into the political situation here?
Oh, that one, yeah.
Deo.
Oh, yeah, Deo.
Yeah, he sang that on the other side of Arthur Avenue.
Well, I'll tell you something. All D'Amato would have to do to wipe him out overnight would be to just play some transcriptions of some of the speeches that he's made in the past.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize what a far lefto this guy is.
For a lot of years.
For a lot of years.
I know. This guy's been really far left. He's so far left, he's on the other side of Fenway Park. Over the Green Monster, that big wall that Mickey Mantle put a couple of holes in. This guy is really far left, Bobby.
Yep.
It's unbelievable.
I don't know who put the bug in his head, but actually I think this is just a smoke screen. I don't
think so?
Yeah.
What do you think now of this other guy, your friend? You call her from Long Island. What's her name? The Chin?
Oh, the chin. The defiant chin.
Her son, the pharmacist.
Well, you see...
Sold drugstore.
You know, she went around campaigning, trying to put down the president and trying to make snide remarks about certain aspects of the administration, and saying how family was so important.
Yeah.
And what happened in her family. So that just indicates, Billy, that when people are as acerbic, as pugnacious, as obnoxious as she is, look out, because they're living in a glass house, and you know what happens if you live in a glass house.
Throw stones.
That's right.
She's passed a lot of maloiki on a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, a maloiki.
Between you and I, Bob, she's a malamend. She passes the word, especially with that little midget of a husband of hers, that Zaccaro, that Zoccola, that he didn't want to give the tenants in that building that were living down in Greenpoint for like 40 years, that they were born and raised in the building. They didn't want to give them heat and hot water. He was a slum landlord besides, this guy. You remember the incident?
Yes, I do.
I mean, this guy is really some character. And what goes around comes around, Geraldine. You know, and she's just bad. She's bad news, this one. Now, I don't want to see her on no Pepsi-Cola commercials sitting in a house out in the Hamptons in the screen porch. I don't want to see that talking to her daughters. I hope her daughters are nice girls, but I don't wish her any bad luck. But she's throwing a lot of stones at a lot of good people.
That's right, Billy.
This woman. But, Bobby, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And if you don't hear from me, don't get nervous. I got your back covered, Goombata.
Well, that's what I wanted to hear. Every now and then, even if you call, just say, hey, I got your back covered, so I know.
You asked me where Vito and Guido were, my cousins.
Yeah.
Couldn't get them in the car. They're too big. They're too gross. They couldn't fit in the big Lincoln.
Si chiama Chiataluz.
Yeah, well, that's it. The No-Neck Brothers. That's what we call them. All right, the walking soda machine. Start the bone, Bobby.
Thank you, Billy. You too.
All right, kid.
Bye. Why don't we have a heterosexual rights bill? I'll tell you something. I think if they pass this dumb bill, I'm going to claim that I'm a homosexual. I'm going to go into my boss and say, if you fire me, I'm going to take you up before the Human Rights Commission. I mean, this is absurd. Absolutely absurd. And I hope that the people who are in the city council who will be voting again, this is about I think the 14th time in the last 15 years, voting on this again, I just hope that they're not intimidated by the gay activists. By the way, good news, for a change of some good news, this guy Vogel, who was Mario Cuomo, you know, our presidential candidate who's living up in the governor's mansion and getting paid as governor while he runs for president, he had to get a load of this, his gay rights liaison. I don't know how much money the guy got, which seems absolutely idiotic. He doesn't have a heterosexual liaison. Anyway, Vogel croaked of AIDS. Okay, let's get back to our busy phones and say hello to Mo.
Yes, Mo. Bob, the last time I spoke to you, I was speaking about how the bureaucrats in this city, namely the taxi commissioner, ruins taxi service. But I would say they have 100 cars. Now check this out. What do they need? Three hack inspectors in each car cruising around the city to nitpick cab drivers when they have the...
Oh, I don't think they nitpick cab drivers. I think most cab drivers deserve to be stopped and actually should be shot.
Why do you say that?
Why? Drive around with me sometime and we'll observe. They are brutal, they are cruel, they are crude. They think they own the highways, they think they own the streets, they can cut you off, they can make a right turn out of a left lane. No wonder their cabs are all banged up like that.
Bob, let me say...
So that annoys me. But even beyond that, I'm sick and tired of this arrogant, sanctimonious, supercilious, imperious, ungrateful, American-hating swine, Vladimir Posner. Vladimir Posner has no right to be airing his views to the American public, has no right to be asked a question on American television, has no right to be quoted in the American newspapers. if for no other reason than there is no American counterpart on television in Russia.
Right.
There is no American counterpart who gets the exposure to give his views in the Soviet Union. Well, it on things for today. Until tomorrow at 2 o'clock, this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi!
And I know there's no answer. Where's Donnie?
Donnie Manis?
Yes.
By the way, Donnie, now it's been uncovered, Donnie has given false information in certain instances. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, it's true. Manis lied about his address and his injury. He used a false home address to hide the fact that he did not live in the district where he was Democratic leader. And unless he was a district leader, Manis could not serve as Democratic county leader for Queens. Documents have also been uncovered that show that for the past 8 years, Donnie used his wife's parents' address in Flushing. And by the way, if this isn't enough, on both his driver's license and his voter's registration card, he claimed he lived at 162-0170 First Avenue. But in fact, his real address for over 15 years has been, I think it was 8065 Chevy Chase Street in Jamaica State. How's that?
Pretty neat.
Yep.
I mean, you know, that's...
Homophobic. Don't pull that phony word on me.
Well, it's the truth, Bob.
Are you a homosexual?
Yes, I am.
Well, why the heck didn't you identify yourself and say, look, I'm a homosexual? Of course to you it wouldn't seem to be a perversion. You wouldn't want to admit it. You're not capable of looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I am a fag, I am a queer, I am a perverted individual. You can't do that. But you should. It would do your soul good. Go to your mirror, look at yourself in the mirror, and repeat after me, I am a perverted misfit.
Bob, you're just aggravated. You probably had a homosexual in your family or something that really bothered you.
And now he's practicing two-bit cheap psychology. Hey, listen, Steve, I'll tell you what, you're on the Long Island line. Make the trip in. Come on up to the mobile unit, will you? Let me punch your nose right down your throat.
Are, unfortunately, people, just as people discriminate because they're Jewish or because...
No, don't include that. Don't include that.
I think it's the same thing. I really do. I mean, I think that there are people...
In other words, I'm not supposed to be disgusted because I have perverts who want to live in my building.
Well, the point is, I mean, you have the right to be disgusted, definitely, and I think as a landlord...
I don't want perverts living in my building. I don't want perverts around me. I don't want perverts around my children. And homosexuals are perverts. Yes. All you have to do is look up the dictionary, you look up the word, and you know that they are perverts. Now, if they are perverts, why don't they keep their perversion to themselves? See, we go right back to where we started from.
Wait, no.
They are the ones who are making it public. They are the ones who are insisting that I am aware of what they do, as you put it, in bed. But they don't do it in bed. They do it in some of these sleazy... Listen, do you know anything about the so-called gay community?
Wait, Bob, can I just...
I asked you a question. Do you?
Yes.
Oh, really? What? What do you know?
I just know what I've read, and I...
What you've read? What have you read?
In my own...
What have you read?
I mean, I'm not a part of it, but I have,
Why have you chosen to be sympathetic to it? How do you identify? How do you relate to the perverted community?
You've asked me a question. I'll explain to you why. Because I'm Jewish, and I know something about the Jewish community and the Jewish history of being discriminated against, and I do equate it. And I feel that if people can discriminate against homosexuals, then someone can be offended by someone being Jewish and could say, well, they can be Jewish, but why do they have to be public about it? Why do they have to...
If I were Jewish, I would be
extreme. And that sort of thing. I think it's the same thing.
If I were Jewish, I would be abhorred and embarrassed by you equating homosexuality with being Jewish. And how interesting how interesting, Eileen, that so many of the most vocal, most erudite, most articulate spokespersons who were against Intro 2 at the city council were themselves Jewish. How dare you equate being Jewish with being queer? How dare you?
being flamboyant.
Isn't that interesting that they don't need intro too?
No,
Isn't that interesting? Because they keep it to themselves. That's why.
Well, Bob, I think that the landlord of your building.
I don't have a landlord.
Well,
I'm my own landlord.
Well, I thought you said they were. Well, the point I'm making is that I think that you should separate.
The point you're making is that you're idiotic. You know, I cannot believe that you would equate being a fag with being Jewish. I cannot believe that. Spade is spade. You no longer have respect for me.
Well, I can't see how you could deny it.
You know why? You're so used to a bunch of Pollyanna pipsqueaks on the radio and on television saying everything is okay. There's nothing wrong. Hey, do your own thing, man. Hey, do your own thing. Legal grounds, on every grounds possible. I think it's high time for the vast majority of Americans who have the misfortune to be heterosexual to stand up and say, hey, look, we're sick and tired of the tail wagging the dog. We're sick and tired of this madness. We're sick and tired of freaks telling us they're not freaks, and do something about it in terms of voting down this type of legislation, in terms of voting out politicians who cater to the gay community.
Oh, I almost choked on a cup of coffee when I heard that stupid broad Eileen make comparison between those homo lice and the Jewish people. She must be one of these ultra liberal, nauseating liberals who unfortunately produced by Jewish mothers who were like Jewish American princesses, if you get what I mean, who lean over backwards for every stupid liberal persuasion.
Yesterday when I was there with all those gays.
Why don't you call them queers? You've been doing it all day.
Well, I intersperse queers, gays, fagulas. I mean, you don't want to use the same word all the time, then it gets boring. See, so you switch around. Be oppressed and yet make more than the average person. I'd like to know how that's achieved.
Well, because the fact of the matter is that many homosexuals cannot come out and live there.
Well, what is there to come out? What is there to come out for? What is there to come out for? I mean, what is the coming out? Tell me, what is the coming out? You fink! Get off my phone, you're making me sick. That slams the lid on things for today. Until tomorrow, March 14th, Albert Einstein's birthday and other geniuses, this is Bob Grant, reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi! I feel bad for Mrs. Manus, the Manus children. I do. I feel bad for them. But these hot air balloons known as politicians, coming by with the long faces, or vace lung, as my Grandma Teresa would say. It's a professional funeral's face. It's a shiver face. It's a wake face. It's a phony face! And I'm just fed up with these politicians going on and on like there's some anointed royalty. And did you get this bit? Political dignitaries paid their respects to the new borough president, Claire Schulman. What is that, paid their respects? They used to pay respects to Donnie, and look what happened to him. 17 minutes past 4, WABC Talk Radio. I gotta find an island and get out of here. We pursue the same policy that the Democrats pursued in the 1960s. There would be another Vietnam.
Exactly. And we'll have a lot of body bags, have to be those Hind helicopter gunships. And I just think that now is the time to take some, as President Reagan put it, swift and effective retribution.
Daniel Ortega must have ruptured himself, given himself a double hernia laughing, to think that his best allies are not in the fields north of Managua shooting Contras. His best allies are in the United States Congress and in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And in the San Francisco Bay Area, where there's a conglomeration of self-alienated lefty pinko freaks publishing the most scurrilous propaganda directed against this country.